Hi guys, I'm Katie Rim from Periapsis Press, where I review indie sci-fi and fantasy books. Today on our Periapsis Discord Community Book Club, we're discussing Free Lunch by S. Kirk Pierce-Chala, the fifth story in Silence and Starsong, Volume 1, Number 1, compiled by editor Joseph W. Knowles. If you guys are interested in joining my Discord and participating in this discussion in the future, you can reach out to me either on Twitter at RedHedgeDragon or through the website, periapsispress.com. Once again, we have Patrick from Cave to the Cross and Michael Kane, author of After Moses. At the end of our discussion last week, Patrick hinted that he was less than satisfied with this story. So this should be an interesting talk.
Yes. Also, I'm slightly rooting for the bad guy in this one.
What?
We'll get into it.
This is very like you already.
Listen, I just want more dark characters and anti-heroes that I can root for. That's what we do here, right?
No.
I'll leave now.
You don't like annoying preteens?
Yeah. In dystopian atmospheres, yes.
So this is kind of it seemed to me a pretty straightforward fairy tale. We have Sally, who is 14, and she reads fairy tales and takes it seriously. Specific stuff that's mentioned, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, the colored fairy books.
So are those the colored fairy books that Tolkien mentions in his On Fairy Tales essay? Is that the connection that was supposed to be made there?
Probably.
Because he's talking about, he mentions back to the such and such book that was a color.
Yeah, and I don't remember if that is exactly what he's talking about, but I know that there are like blue and red and yellow.
Yeah, okay.
Ooh, there are hacker books that are color coded too, that you're supposed to know by color. So, look, I can be nerdy too and talk about things you guys don't know about. It's fine.
So, I don't know anything about what's in them. That's the thing. Like, I've seen them a couple of times come up, like on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, but I don't know what kind of stories are in them. So that would be something that would be interesting to know. But Sally knows. Sally knows what's in them.
And we know Sally.
And she is on a road trip with her older brother, Danny. And I think it's her older brother.
Yeah, definitely older.
It's just the way that they interact.
Yes, definitely older.
And she has a mild crush on one of his friends, which makes me think older brother rather than younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, her mom and dad. So the setting, they've been on a road trip for a long time. And it seems like this was not a destination vacation, but like a driving around, staying in strange hotels and seeing things on the way type of vacation, which is not my kind of vacation.
the mystery spot, the dinosaur bone valley. Yeah. the largest piece of toast in America.
I was going to say ball of yarn, but you beat me to it.
Biggest ball
Giant
of twine in Arizona.
basket. Yeah. That kind of stuff. They are stopped for a night at a magical looking rental cottage, and Sally sort of gets an uncomfortable feeling that is just kind of like the earliest tip off that she just doesn't feel quite right about it. They have some trouble getting in. When they do, they find freshly roasted beef tri-tip on the stove, and it is ready to eat.
And it is perfect and wonderful.
I'm a meat person. So I was definitely salivating a little bit, but I was a little bit like.
But were you with Sally when she says, "Don't eat the free lunch"?
Well, you don't
have
meat.
sex with a witch.
Okay,
Don't pee in the holy water, and never ever eat a meal.
Wait, you
in
missed
the dark woods.
You missed never split the party in
Right,
the
right,
previous
right.
one.
No, I'm
Every
sorry.
one of these stories has know what genre you're in. Genre you're in. And Sally knew exactly what genre she's in.
And this is why I kind of root for the bad guy. Because you should know.
And this is something that's going to come up here. But there's kind of two halves of this story, right? One half of this story is that it is very, very aware of this kind of story and is playing up to all of these things that come up in these kinds of stories, right? The riddles and all this sort of things. So Sally is this very aware character. She knows all the right things and she's telling us all these right things. But at the same time, it's also not just this self-aware kind of tongue-in-cheek parody, but is also trying to be the kind of story at the same time. And so of those two halves, I think one of them works very well. And the other one, there's a little bit of a fumble near the end. But I get what it's trying to do is it's trying to be both the fairy tale and the poke you in the side, hey, we're doing that fairy tale.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Which I'm fine with.
Yeah. Sally's pretty adamant they shouldn't eat it.
Don't eat the tri-tip.
I was kind of quite aside from fey creatures and being locked in the netherworld and stuff. I was like, meat that's been sitting out. I don't. Do we risk that? Do we?
I think it was still hot. I think it was still on the stove.
Yep. Yep.
It was just then perfect.
These are West Coasters. They'll put anything in their mouth. So just saying.
Everyone else kind of makes excuses for the meat's presence, and they eat it.
Except Sally, who eats a few stale cheese crackers that she found.
I feel like my mom
still had in their stuff.
If my parents would have sat down and been like, "This is fine," I would have gotten yelled at to the point where they would have damned me to the netherworld by forcing me to eat it. So
you don't waste food.
Yeah. But there's not even like a sign on it, which is like, welcome. They almost have to break into this cabin and it's just there. Like, okay, the people were expecting us. Well, not really, because they're kind of just finding this, I mean, they don't just find it there. They had planned to rent this, what they believe is this cabin. And so it doesn't raise any hackles for the dad who should know.
Again, and that kind of plays into what the story is working on, because in a story, this is all kinds of red warning sirens. You're like, no, this is insane. You don't touch this, right? I mean, and that's what the title of the story is free lunches in reference to this very part of the story, right?
Yes, the communists would not agree, but there is no such thing as a free lunch. Yes.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to think. I'm assuming what is this? Is this like some Airbnb cabin?
Probably.
It's a fairly modern story, because I think the internet is even mentioned. So they're not getting internet on their phone out there. So it's very modern. I don't know if you're expecting to rent this place and you got there and there was a meal prepared for you. I think most people would find it weird. But after traveling a long time, I bet most people would probably eat it, right? It's like separated from the context of a story where everything should be suspect. The
best thing about horror movies is when the characters don't know that they're in the horror movie.
I was a little bit like, okay, you knew you were going to stay out in a cabin in this kind of isolated. What was your plan for dinner?
Yeah, but they were lazy, because even they were like, we're probably going to have to go back into town or rustle up something, peanut butter and jelly, classic. But no, they're just like, here, we're going to be lazy. But
well,
it's not like a malicious.
It was the end of the trip.
Yeah.
It was the end of the trip. We're done with this. We haven't thought this far ahead. We're just trying to get to the hotel, sort of thing.
Not everybody could have eaten cheese crackers, though, right? Like, I get it. Parents being like tired, and at the end of a trip, you're eating whatever you have left in the car. But like, if there's nothing left in the car,
yeah,
the mom should be on top of this. That's all I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Maybe because our kids are a little bit older, there's not that like, the afternote on the story. I really get the feeling that did you read the afternote where
I did, yeah.
She says that she asserts that free lunch was inspired by true events, but leaves it to the reader to determine where facts end and where fantasy begins. I bet it is true through the meat. I bet there was a cabin that was locked. They had trouble getting in, and then there was a meal. That's my theory.
That sounds plausible.
Because it's just strange enough that you'd remember it and go, "Yeah, I'm writing a story about that." If you're looking to write a weird fiction story, there's your kickoff right there.
Yeah. Maybe they're psychos. Maybe you're a psycho. I was like, this is autobiographical at this point. It's only once we get Rumpelstiltskin do we're like, all right, maybe this part didn't happen. Yeah.
So for me, the magical food trope and like being changed by what you eat, or like having things happen to you because of something you ate, is one of the things that I think is creepier in fairy tales. I would like, okay, so when I was a kid, I went on a road trip in a bus with a whole bunch of other kids. I can't remember the context, but they had a TV at the front and they put Spirited Away on.
Oh, nice.
And I had no context for this. I'm too far back to hear, but like the parents turn into pigs because they're eating food, and it like freaked me out.
That's the same opening of the story right there. What's her name? In Spirited Away knew exactly what genre she was in. She's like, "No, you don't need to be eating this."
The original Trolls movie, not Trolls 2, which everyone knows the famous scene from there of first they're going to eat oh my gosh, he's eating them, and then they're going to eat me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But the first one contains Harry Potter, and he pees on food to stop his parents from eating it so that the trolls will be able to eat them. So we all know where J.K. Rowling now got her inspiration. And I'm just saying, Trolls 1 is the best one.
I forgot about Trolls. I haven't actually seen it, but like I've seen those clips. Yeah. So
that's good.
The other one that I thought of was actually District 9, where he gets is it blood or some what is
it's
it
like
that
engine. It's like engine grease that changes him, but we're not really told like what it is. But it's just like a part
some
for the
alien
spaceship.
Substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the. I was a little bit apprehensive about this story. I was like,
or maybe we get classical and Persephone,
be, like, creepy.
Persephone and Ares.
Right, of course.
Yeah, or not Ares. Yeah, Ares. Yeah, because that's why spring comes about. Because Persephone goes back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or trolls. Either way.
Trolls is a lot creepier than here, eat some pomegranate seeds. So we get a little interlude after the meal as everybody's sort of transitioning towards bed of like teen angst. Sally likes Nick. A little bit of am I a freak? Am I boring and ugly? And then that's about all. But it's one of those things that I think is probably required if you have a teenage girl as a main character. I don't know.
You're not saying they're balls of drama, are you?
What?
I said, you're not saying they're balls of drama, are you?
No.
I don't know. Has she shaved one side of her head? If not, you
Sally,
know what type.
Sally or me. Let's be clear. I have 3 sisters, so I think I can assert that girls are balls of trauma. She wakes up in the night after some sort of vague dreams and finds all her family gone. Out of bed, disappeared.
So it changes focus, though, for the storytelling. So it goes to the brother.
Not quite yet.
Not yet, I don't think.
Not quite yet, but soon.
Oh, am I too far forward?
Soon, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yep, okay.
Yeah.
I'm one section back forward. 3 a.m.
She sort of attacked. I would have, as a girl, I would call it attacked if a bug flew in my face. So, by a giant moth. And he sort of turns into the King of Shadows. I'm not familiar if this is like a direct reference to a specific fae creature or fairy tale persona. Are you guys?
I was gonna research on that because there's something that's sitting on the back of my mind that says maybe, probably, regardless. I think the insinuation is that any of the stories about this kind of character, it was him. If that makes sense. Go on. I'm gonna see if I can figure out. I think I might know, maybe.
I would say probably, but there's not enough context given, and I don't appreciate the author assuming that I'm smarter than what I really am. I need a little bit more to know who this person is. Like, I get, we're not there yet, but I get what type of thing he is, what his purpose is, but I
think that's all you need in this story, though.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think you need to know. You don't need to know how he functions, but just really that's what he is.
I need something.
This isn't an understand the hows and the whys, and this isn't a Brandon Sanderson short story, right? This is like the far opposite of that.
No, I want her to take the electron microscope and pluck his fingernail and tell me what his DNA looks like.
So, are you the sort that gets to Tom Bombadil and doesn't enjoy Tom Bombadil?
No, he's Jesus. I understand him. Yeah.
No. No, that is. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Katie and I will have to deal with you later on that.
Listen, I didn't bring it up this time. I'm always getting accused of bringing up the book. I'm not going to. It was
an analogy.
Yeah. Aslan,
the greatest threat
same person.
to this discussion is always Lord of the Rings.
Okay, well, I can't find it,
so
but I
just like
I
with
feel like
Google.
there's a character very close in a George MacDonald either one of his bigger fairy tales or one of the short stories, and I can't find it, but I feel that there's something very close in George MacDonald. And
yeah, for me, like a Google search just turned up like a Greek or a Roman god, and then like if I added moth, apparently it's also like a specific genus of moth. I was like, okay, I don't know if that's necessarily.
I was curious if either of you were enough conspiracy kind of people to chase Mothman as a thread here.
Yeah. Add more Mothman. I'm there. Yeah.
Well, I think. Well, and so if there was any insinuation of that meant, I think also because one of Sally's surprises, you're supposed to be in Europe. Right. So she recognizes him as something out of European mythology, which of course he's like, no, I can I can manifest portals basically into your realm from anywhere.
So he's kidnapped her family as a sort of exchange, right? They ate the food, so he gets to enslave them until they die. And sorry,
No
go ahead,
lunch.
Patrick.
But I mean, question mark, step 3, profit. Like, what's the second step? Like, I feast on your soul, and then I get stronger. I manifest myself out of the ocean, and I'm a nether god that will be worshipped alongside Cthulhu and the circle monster from Japan lore.
It's vague, and the POV switches to Danny are likewise vague.
The hero of the story.
It is an outside the context of the story question you are asking.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You wouldn't understand anyway.
Well, I would agree, except that we have the POV changes, and so it bothers me that there's not more to go with those POV changes, because really the only thing we get is kind of disorienting images and vague sense of enormous task that he must do, and sort of people, antagonists, sort of people maybe laughing, mocking, but there's not really anything concrete. The only concrete stuff is him sort of outside observing his sister's conversation. So I wish that there was something more to justify those POV changes, I guess.
I can second that. I mean, I see what you're saying. I will agree with where you concluded more than the beginning part, if that makes any sense how we got here. But I can say that I didn't feel that the story and its purposes necessarily had to have them as the story was told.
Sure.
Right. I feel like there's a version of this story as it's told that doesn't have those, that's not particularly harmed in any way.
Right.
If that makes sense.
But as a straightforward fairy tale, it doesn't necessarily need a giant lore.
Right. We don't need to know why he's doing this or what he's doing this, other than that he's the King of Shadows and that's what he does. He comes in, causes problems, and for his own ends, and disappears.
But this point of view change is a place between commas, where if you can lift it out and throw it away, and it adds nothing or removes anything from the story.
You couldn't just throw it away, because
I can throw it away. Listen.
Because he can still perceive what the King of Shadows and Sally are doing. The narrative does actually continue forward, so you would have to rework some of that back to Sally's point of view. So it's technically not not something you couldn't throw away. That's me. But it could be. I do feel maybe it could be edited out. I'm not sure.
Or moved to because sometimes those breaks can, especially when it's vague and disorienting,
move it to where I thought it was. Stand
in for time passing.
Right. And that's something that'll come up at the second one, and at the end. That my issue with the story is at the end. Now we'll get there. It's about the passage of time too.
So Sally is thinking about ways to defeat this King of Shadows,
which I like people who understand the entity in the room is a thing, and we're not doing, who are you? What do you want? I don't believe this. Oh, I love
Just moved right on from that.
those stories that are like, man, you are Rumpelstiltskin. I know this. Sweet.
Well, and that's what I was saying. She's genre savvy.
Yeah.
She knows what story she's in.
Yes.
She knows that because she didn't fall for it. Okay, now we're going to have a game of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even the awareness that he knows that she knows what kinds of story they're in, and that they understand each other. So he's like, what does he say? Something along the lines of, "You don't strike me as the questing or riddle type."
Right.
Yeah.
She has options.
I think he says more the riddle type, less the questing type.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the quote.
What's in my pocket? No.
One of the first things that she suggests doing is going and getting a priest.
Right.
And he names the priest, and it's Father Ted. Have either of you seen Father Ted?
Oh, yeah.
Is this a reference to the show Father Ted?
If it's not, we're going to make it because we're the readers.
So I have not. So clue me in, and anyone who watches this.
I only know it secondhand from my sister, who absolutely loves the show.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not Catholic, and so I don't have any like developed understanding of what makes a priest not a good priest. Or I mean, it's a drama show, right?
Oh, it's a comedy.
Yes.
Yeah. He's kind of like well, for British, bumbling, but not so much like Mr. Bean type deal, but more like if the Three Stooges were classy without the slapstick.
Wait a minute, without the slapstick?
Yeah, exactly. Like the British.
So I'm not sure. It was a cultural reference that I was I made that I wasn't sure if it was a
Okay,
I got the
legitimate
Father
one.
Ted one, but I don't understand who this guy is. So
Well,
we're going with one.
In the end, it doesn't even matter if it is any
Right.
kind of reference, because the King of Shadows knows him, says, "Yeah, this isn't going to work." Basically, what did he say? That he's mine already? Something along those.
Yeah.
Waste of time. He doesn't know it, but he's one of mine. Even if he wanted to banish me, he wouldn't know the correct formula.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's something that comes up repeatedly, and that's kind of that's a callback to fairy tales in general. You've mentioned Rumpelstiltskin a few times. That sometimes these fey creatures, there is the specific thing. If you know the specific thing, you can instantly defeat them. So there's the insinuation here that he does have a formula, but Father Ted doesn't know it.
Right. Yeah.
So Father Ted's not a threat.
Ernest Scared Stupid, Childlike Love. You kiss the troll. Never seen Ernest Scared Stupid?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's the best Ernest movie. Ernest Goes to Jail is a close second. Ernest Scared Stupid, the best one.
Your wealth of pop culture knowledge is staggering.
I'm a child of the 80s, and I don't apologize for it, sir.
Sally proposes a game. And this is where it breaks down a bit for me. It's basically, guess how I'm going to defeat you within the time limit. And if you don't, then I win. And if you do, then you win. And basically the answer was she was going to waste time until the sun came up.
Well, okay. So, yeah. And part of this was where it didn't work for me. And I'll tell you why in a second, but not so much the game. The game, he's intrigued into playing it because that's the nature of this sort of creature. She comes up with something. I mean, he even seems, what was his exact response to that? Oh, yeah. He's like, sounds rather vague. What do you mean? Right. But at the same time, he kind of has this, well, this is what we're supposed to do, but human child, I shall humor you. It says this is how the confrontation is supposed to play out.
Gosh,
well, okay. You came up with an interesting, you came up with a game. I'll play it. Let's do this. Right. Let's do it.
If any demons rhyme to me, just scythe me in half. Just no, thank you. Please don't do that.
You don't like it when they rhyme?
Not one time.
So he goes through a few things. He guesses about, silver bullets and blessed bullets, and even, jokes about, is your name Rumpelstiltskin, and a bunch of things like this. And where I think it doesn't, because the waiting for the dawn thing, again, that's not only Tolkien, that's other older stuff too, right? Sure. That's a thing. Yeah. Where it even doesn't work for me is that it doesn't feel like she wasted enough time at this stage for the game to have fulfilled its purpose of wasting his time so that the dawn comes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like I wanted another half page of Sally portraying and him bantering about their knowledge of fairy tale tropes and formula and
play a chess game.
Right. He could have, I mean, even that could have been brought up. I'm just saying the idea is it just needed a few more steps, I think, for it to feel like, oh, we've wasted enough time for dawn to come.
Yeah. I agree. And
he needed to get into it a little further for him to have, it felt like he lost track of time. So this is like my one complaint with the story, where I was like, oh, okay. I didn't feel like time had passed for myself. So if I didn't,
yeah,
I didn't go with time. I went with a flaw in the character. I don't know if she was clever. Like, yeah, she won, but is that because the author wanted her to win?
Right. And that's why I think if it had gone a few more stages and she had continued to show her knowledge of the situation she's in, it would have showed a little bit more of her mastery of the situation, so that when dawn comes, it's even more of an aha. See, I was in charge of this until the end. Yeah. I did know what I was doing. I do know. And I think that's what the author's purpose was. But like I said, this is the section I needed a little bit more on.
I think the introduction of the game during Danny's POV was a mistake there. I think if it had been introduced before his POV, and then you have that sort of disorienting interlude, and then jump back in, that would have felt more like time passing.
Right. I would have liked to have gone to the wake up with him. And it's like, oh, nothing happened. And then suddenly the horror that you feel is his horror of going, why can I see through my body? Or what happened to my corporeal form? Or, something along those lines, which I'm sure he would use.
Yeah, his experience is not fleshed out, which we've sort of talked about as desirable, but maybe not necessary. For me, with the game, it's too obvious, I guess, because it puts the antagonist in the position of actively thinking about how she could defeat him. Mm. And the fact that he does not figure that out, which would be him winning the game. So there wouldn't be any reason not to lay out legitimate ways that she could harm him, right? Like, I don't know, that it just makes him feel maybe a little dumb to me.
It's like Bilbo asking, what's in my pocket? It's not a riddle.
Again, part of that, I see what you're saying, but part of that comes to he almost expresses the obligation of, well, I've got to play along with your game because that's how this works. Mm-hmm. Right. It's almost, he's like, he's deliberately, he points out the weakness of it and then basically says, I'm going to humor you in this because, again, he's savvy to how this works too. And that's why, like I said, there's two halves to the story. One half of it is this very self-aware story about the weird things that happens in the woods, right? In the European woods at night, and something goes bump, right? One half of the story is about that. And if you've read a bunch of fairy tales, you're probably going to enjoy that part of it more, right? The other half of it is it's trying to be that story. And that's the part, like I said, that I wanted that section to be longer so it felt like we lost track of time, so that it's not just an immediate, oh, okay, yeah, that's right, that's what happened. It's like, you need that, that's what happened. But it didn't quite build to that. But as the genre aware, kind of winking at you sort of piece, I think it totally works. That's the part where I had fun, because I've read a bunch of George MacDonald stuff and really enjoyed it and things like that. I do like those. And so, like I said, one half hits, the other half has a little fumble at the end, but I enjoyed it.
Maybe she can say, like, oh, I've come up with a specific number. Like, I've come up with 999 ways to get rid of you. If you can guess them all, you win. So it puts a long one, and then he gets to like 998, and then the last one that he guesses, like, I don't know, something to throw holy water on me, or I know he already did that, but still. And then she's like, no, I'm just going to make you guess a whole bunch of times incorrectly until the sun comes up. So at least that way you're like, oh, that's a big number. So there's a time period there.
Well, that was his fault for not specifying a number. Even Gollum knew to specify, I have so many guesses.
Well, the
right?
devil and Seven Seal.
Bilbo specifies the number. You're right.
Yeah.
Bilbo gives him 5 after Gollum accepts.
Yeah.
Don't accept bad games. That's the real moral of the story here. If you're the thing that goes bump in the night, don't give away your upper hand by playing silly games.
Yeah. Well, that's the Seventh Seal. The devil, plays chess with the brave knight, and he goes, all right, well, I'm not going to play anymore. And it's ultimately until he decides that he wants his life to be over that, you could essentially trick the devil, because it's like, well, if you win at the match, well, I'm just not going to play. So there you go. So there's no timer for it. So they need to play fast chess or something.
I would have liked, so he mentions spilling seeds on the floor and
Yeah.
picking them up.
Yeah.
Like
Vampires. Yeah.
I would have liked something along those lines a little bit more, I think, where you sort of get more of the sense of less humoring and more like a compulsory, like, this is the thing that I have to do.
Sure.
And then again, like you guys said, like something to give it a sense of scale and time.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe that's the thing. Like, maybe she has only sunflower seeds left in her bag that she's eating with the crackers. She throws them on the floor, and picking them up, he's like, well, look, you failed because I picked them all up. And she goes, no, that wasn't my plan the whole time. My plan was for you to pick them all up until the sun came up. So it was like the ruse within the ruse of it.
Yeah, something that was more of a distraction from the defeating element of it. I think for me, it felt like the game itself was too specific to the situation. I don't know.
Well, I won't rewrite someone else's story.
Right.
I'll talk about what I think does and doesn't.
Yeah.
That's always.
I have no predilection to your authorial ways.
It's always very easy to backdoor quarterback. This is how a story should have gone. And it's like, well, then you start butterfly affecting things, and well, then it has other things. So it's like,
So she wins, and he turns into a dead moth. And then she begins to forget the whole encounter. Her family wakes up on the lawn, disoriented. Her parents are not all right.
As one would
Right,
be disoriented.
Her parents are not all right, and they probably should not drive, but they're going to anyway. And as they leave the home is resting in the comforting waves of daylight. And that's how the story ends.
And then Ash and his friends come, they read the Necronomicon, and it all starts all over again. That's East Coast, sorry.
I also didn't like the forgetting at the end. That irritated me a little bit. Probably more than the game itself.
I mean, I mean, I don't really care. Like, that's look. Sometimes you wander into fairyland, and you come away with silver streaks in your hair, and you're wise for the rest of your days. And you may not tell about your story, but you're forever changed. And other times you wander out and don't remember a thing. And either way works.
Have the brother remember. Have only the brother remember. Hey, I feel bad about this. I'm going to set you up with my friend. They walked arm in arm together into the woods.
No. I think brother and parents forgetting is a perfectly legitimate way to resolve that.
That's expected. That's 100% expected.
But I feel like
at the very least, parents, because they're too old to remember the fairy realm.
Right. But I feel like with Sally, her experience could have an implied resolution to some of her self-confidence issues that were mentioned.
I am going to ask Jeremy to the prom when we get home.
It was Nick, wasn't it? Come on, get it right.
They're high school boys. They won't matter in 3 years anyways.
What, Michael?
I'm trying to find specifically how it phrases her fading. Does it say?
It's like remnants of an intense but rapidly dissolving dream. Yeah, she felt she had just been engaged in a long, frustrating conversation with someone, but couldn't remember who it was.
I would assume that she still comes away for the better, because that's how this sort of thing works.
Of course, yeah.
She doesn't come away unchanged, and I choose to believe that against her brother's wishes, that she manages to score Nick. I don't know how you want me to phrase that. Danny's like, no, sister. I got nothing.
Or maybe everything resets, and then the parents go back inside and eat the meat, and then it's just a perpetual cycle.
Things are not resetting, Patrick. Stop it.
The King of Shadows bit the dust. She wins.
This is America, punk. Stay on your own land.
So I think we've spent some time kind of talking about, particularly the end, some of the things that we were frustrated with. But I think there's quite a bit to like about this story. I think It does fairy tale tropes pretty well, without undermining or subverting them, if that makes sense.
There's a meta storyline without sarcasm, which is nice.
Right.
Yes. Like Michael's been saying, there's sort of two aspects of it, but they're both very genuine and good-hearted. I think like the common pattern of parents who are pretty useless was done well in such a way that it treated the parents generously, if that makes sense. Like, they were not uncaring or like in conflict with one another. They were just tired.
And it's not their story.
Right.
it's unfortunately for them was not their story. So they kind of ate well, ate the brunt of it.
Yeah.
As soon as I said ate, I knew I'd made a mistake with that analogy. I was like, oh no, where do I go with that?
No, your goose was cooked then.
Oh.
Well done, everyone. Well done.
I'm not sure that I have much more to say about this one.
Since I'm the writer and I've mentioned the prose every time, every single one of these stories so far has had a very different prose style because of the needs of the story and the time period it's set in and things like that. And, this was just modern, clean prose for the first time. It wasn't trying to be something else. Last one was trying to be this kind of 1600s, and then before that we have just the strangeness of the nuclear sub, and before that is the very trying to this barbarian, this near biblical prose. This one was just modern, clean prose, and it was nice and clean.
Yeah.
Saved by a girl who reads books. I mean, come on.
What's not to like?
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of those actually in fiction because writers are readers usually. So that's not too uncommon at all.
There's a lot of writers and readers in our fiction because writers and readers write our fiction.
Yeah.
It's actually a little pretentious, isn't it, for writers and readers too? But everybody's happy with it, right? Because it's all just self-flattery.
Readers makes a lot of sense because the reader being the hero, a reader being a hero or a bookish hero, right? Also not only appeals to the person writing, but also like 98% of the people reading are probably bookish people. So like,
right.
Yeah, this is me killing the aliens. I can totally kill the aliens and, get the space princess.
I could hold my own against the King of Shadows. Exactly. I know enough stuff.
I read a book or two.
I read that one story.
Yeah, you're the demon of shadows. No. What are you talking about? Oh, then I'm out of ideas. End of story.
Yeah, but writers writing about writers is probably closer to that pretentious. I'm not a Stephen King fan, but I'm pretty sure he does that a time or two.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I do appreciate though that a lot of his writers turn out to be the bad guys though, because he's the bad guy. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, it's a pretty straightforward fairy tale. So I don't know that there's that much more to pick apart. No. I don't want to overanalyze it either. I would say that I liked it. My dislikes were more like quibbles, right?
Yeah.
It's a very nice, good-hearted fairy tale.
Agreed.
100%.
All right. Well, as always, if you have not read Silence and Starsong, we encourage you to before we spoil the whole thing for you. It's not super spoilery. I mean, we talk about every single aspect of the story, but
but we warn people.
The experience of reading it yourself is still worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read anything else by Pierce Jala. Nope. I believe we're Twitter mutuals. But if this sounds at all interesting to you guys, we encourage you to check out her other work.
And where you know that we're wrong about things, leave that in the comment or on the Twitter post and tell us how wrongly wrong we are.
Yes. Bring it on.
And if you agree that Tom Bombadil is Jesus, hit the thumbs up button. So all the thumbs up.
I mean,
buttons.
I can show you from the
You're
text
gonna
how that
curse me.
cannot be.
People are going to start hitting the is it an unlike button? Is that what it is?
It doesn't exist anymore.
They took that away?
No,
I didn't
yeah.
even.
Wait, no, you can down like, can't you? You just can't publicly see the number of just down likes.
Yeah, I think
You
that's
can't
it.
see it. Yes.
But Katie would know every
I would
single
know.
one of them. She
Him and
can
his
see
buddy
that number.
Aslan were in the forest, and that we all know the story. We don't need to rehash this.
I would be that little anime character who, with every insult, like gets an arrow that comes through and like pierces their body. It's like every time someone hits the unlike button because they know that Tom Bombadil is not Jesus.
He's
It's
the
not my
Jesus.
fault, guys.
Yeah. Not even from a parallel dimension. He's So the next one, what do we think?
I haven't read it yet,
Oh,
so
yeah, that's right.
This might be the one that I haven't gotten to yet. I'll have to look at it, but this might be the one I'll have to read fresh for myself.
Ooh, all right.
Because I was reading. I was
read
reading
it.
this. Yeah, I had to stop because I was publishing my book last spring.
Humble brag. Humble brag.
Humble brag. Buy now on Amazon. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't think I've read this one.
Okay.
So
well, we're halfway through. We've read 5, and there are 5 to go. Yes, I
And
counted
then more
right.
volumes on top of that. Buy them all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
Again, if you're interested in joining us, reach out to me. We'd love to have you. Otherwise, feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe. Thank you to Patrick and Michael again. I appreciate you guys joining me. And thank you all for watching. Have a good day.